looking at 5 different ways of thinking that might just make you want to pause, reflect, and maybe even rewrite the script you've been handed. So let's start with the roles we all play.
All right, so first on the list, let's talk about those invisible responsibilities we take on. You know the ones in your life, at work, the ones nobody ever actually asks you to do, but you feel like you have to. And the metaphor here is just so interesting. A black plant. Think about that. It's someone who's like an emotional sponge, right? They just automatically soak up everyone else's problems and burdens, even when it has nothing to do with them. The big idea here is to start making a conscious choice. Stop volunteering for these roles you were never even assigned. And look, this isn't about being selfish. It's about setting some healthy boundaries so you don't completely burn out.
Wow, and this image it captures it perfectly, doesn't it? A person all dressed for work, blindfolded, just walking right into this maze of expectations. It's such a powerful way to show how we step into these roles without even seeing where we're going, just driven by this feeling that we should. And the scary part? A lot of the time, we don't even realize how heavy it all is until it's way too late. Okay, so if we can choose to say no to the roles we don't want, what can we choose to say yes to? What can we actually create for ourselves? Well, that leads us right into our second big idea, rethinking the power of personal rituals. The idea here is to think about rituals in a really practical sense. It's not about some big, fancy ceremony. It could be as simple as your morning coffee, or taking a walk every day, or meditating. The whole point is that all of these things, and yeah, that includes formal religious practices too, are basically just tools. They're tools we use to find our balance and manage our emotions when the world feels kind of chaotic. And yeah, look at this. This picture really gets that feeling across. You've got this one person just standing calm while everything around them is a blur of chaos. That's exactly what rituals can give you, a personal anchor, a way to build your own little island of stability on purpose. All right, now for our third idea, and this one's a little provocative. It's going to make us take a hard look at how we judge symbolic beliefs, especially when two things that seem totally different are, well, maybe more similar than we think. So what's so interesting here is the direct comparison being made. On one side, you have the idea of vampires or blood drinkers, something most of society sees as taboo, right? And on the other side, you have the symbolic consumption of the blood of Christ, which is a totally sacred ritual in Christianity. The source is basically asking, what's really the difference here? The core argument is that this is all a kind of monkey see, monkey do cycle. Both are symbolic acts, right? They're both driven by this deep human need for ritual. So the source kind of pokes the bear and asks, is the only real difference just that one of them got mainstream approval? It's a really stark way of making us check our own cultural biases about what we call sacred and what we call taboo. And these scales of judgment. This image really visualizes that whole dilemma. It makes you ask yourself, are we actually weighing these things objectively, or are our scales totally tipped by our own cultural programming? So we've talked about judging beliefs. Now let's switch gears to how we judge people. Our fourth idea gets into just how random, how arbitrary the comparisons we make every single day really are. Think about it. From the time we're kids, we're basically taught what to notice in other people. Things like wealth, looks, how smart someone is. Society kind of trains us on what's valuable, and we learn to focus on it. And that brings us to the big question, right? Who decides what's even worth comparing in the first place? I love this example because it is just so absurd, and that's exactly the point. We talk about hair length all the time, right? Oh, your hair's gotten so long. But imagine saying, wow, your neck is looking extra long today. It sounds completely bizarre. And by using that weird comparison, the source just perfectly highlights how random and made up our standards of comparison really are. Okay, we're at our fifth and final idea, and this one gets pretty deep. It's a big philosophical look at who we are, and it questions where our so-called flaws even come from. This is a really powerful statement. It takes an emotion that we all see as negative, jealousy, and it totally reframes it. Instead of it being some kind of personal failure, it suggests it's actually a reflection of a divine trait. I mean, if you believe you're made in a God's likeness, and that God is described as being jealous, then maybe your own jealousy isn't a bug. Maybe it's a feature. So we're back to this image again, but now look at it with a totally new lens. Instead of seeing judgment, just focus on that colorful, complex, emotional person in the middle. This whole idea suggests that our messy, human selves aren't some mistake or a step down from the divine, but maybe a direct reflection of it. And that leaves us with one last thing to chew on. If our flaws are actually part of our design, then what are we supposed to do with them? Maybe the goal isn't to get rid of them, but to actually understand them. There's no easy answer here, for sure, but it's definitely something worth thinking about. Thanks for coming along